Tam fam, please welcome Ginger Zee to the show. You had your memoir, and it was deeply revealing about the many struggles that you faced from childhood on this path to what we call success. But obviously, Ginger, you also felt that there was unfinished business. You were not completely at peace with that first memoir, hence the reason we're here now. How do you explain, putting it down and then going back saying, I have unfinished business?
People were writing me and saying, you saved my life. Dozens of people right away. And I thought, my story saved your life? And then as I'm doing this work, I'm realizing, oh my goodness, I have more traumas that I have not uncovered. I need to go back, uncover that wound, make a book about healing. And then along the way, I realized this isn't about healing. It's not one and done. You have to maintain the work in healing, just like you do maintaining your work in physical health. You can't just go to the gym and get in like sick shape for 6 months and then stop. That's not how mental health works either. So this book became the reality check and the peace that comes along with, I'm going to be here and I can't wait to see what happens next.
I have to tell you, our audience may not know, I've known you for many, many years now. I was a local news anchor in Chicago, and I wanted you and I wanted us to be a team. And the person who didn't sign up on that deal is no longer in the business. I'll put that pettiness out there. But, here we are now with the chance to talk. And one of the things that I had front of mind in creating this show, I said, people can have your story and rush to the ending. And they rush to the ending of, you are a history-making meteorologist in this business, a woman, groundbreaking journalist. But the reality is the pages that it took for you to get here. And one of those chapters is what you referred to, the incident that happened to you in college, and revealing that, and also sharing that this painful moment happened at a time when you got the biggest break of your career.
Mm-hmm. I think those two things, the pressure on myself, the expectation I had for myself and the expectation I thought society and others would have on me, are a big part of this story. So I was a freshman in college. I was raped, and I was in shock after I was raped, as many people are. And then I got this phone call, and I thought, I've got to run away from that. Whatever that was, I got to pretend that did not happen, because if I go around trying to process that right now, I'm not going to be able to deal. And the problem was, I didn't only just run away. I went and took that opportunity, which was an insanely wonderful opportunity. But what I could have and hopefully should have done, right, if I can inspire someone else, is you can do two of those things concurrently. You can work through and process trauma and have success. And I think that I thought those two things needed to be independent, and I hope someone else does not do that, because it really will. When you've got a wound as big as that, you have to attend to it.
What I've also found interesting in this book is your ability, Ginger, to process forgiveness. How did you get to that point?
I think the first part is my personality. I look at my oldest son now, and he is so empathetic, and he's such a born people pleaser and perfectionist. And it's really hard to watch him because he gets angry at himself first. He blames himself first. And I see that was a part, and still is a part of my personality, that I try to work through to kind of learn how to regulate my emotions. But on top of that, I realized once I went back and I was more mature and I was able to go back to that trauma, uncover it, clean it out, that there was no part of me that wanted any of the shame or guilt, but I also didn't want to put that on someone else. I actually have great empathy for those people, because I can't imagine what they're living with and what this trauma has done to them.
Well, you are so remarkable. And up next, the story behind this smile and why Ginger says it was a warning sign we should look out for after the break.
I cared so little about my life, about anything. I acted like absolutely nothing was happening when I was being poisoned slowly by my own choosing right in front of my mom. I smiled and laughed with her so that she would let me go, so I could die in peace. Whenever I shined brightest, it was usually my mask of depression thickening. And this was an elite level performance, masking numbness and depression.
We're spending the hour today talking with very special people about how they found their path forward to success and inclusion and even forgiving themselves. We're with my friend, Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee, who's opened up even more about her journey and her new memoir, A Little Closer to Home. Ginger, we just heard you read an excerpt from your book, and that's where you are discussing how you spent hours shopping with your mother. You had this smile on your face, knowing that you'd swallowed hundreds of pills and planned on following through with your second suicide attempt. Again, I'm always fascinated by the ability to recall such pain, but have purpose in doing so. And that's why you've chosen to tell this story.
I would love for anyone to realize that a lot of times when someone looks their brightest and their smile is their biggest, I think that can often be a symbol, it was for me, of the deepest, darkest moments and the deepest pain. And I was so good at lying to myself at that point that I was so good at lying to even my mother. And I couldn't be honest with her. I was so ready to go at that moment that I thought, I've just got to get through here. I didn't care about anything except for taking my life. And that sounds really frightening, and it can be triggering for people that have had suicidal ideation. The part that makes this worth talking about is that I know now that we can help people in that situation. I would love for people to talk out loud about it and say, yeah, I am doing this smile so big because I want so badly to not have to talk or live with what I'm doing. And I think that that should be one of the things that we look for, instead of saying, well, you know, you'll hear people, well, what do we look for in depression or someone who may be on edge of taking their own life? And they'll say isolation, which I think is very valid. But a lot of times they'll say mood changes, anger, frustration. I don't see, you know, big smile.
The idea that you revealed one attempt is, you know, takes your breath away, but that you would reveal that there were two. Because people don't often tell that, Ginger. They say, I had suicidal thoughts, or I tried once. Repeated attempts. People don't often, celebrities don't talk a lot about that openly.
Yeah, and I think we should. We should just say what it is that is true. And especially because my story comes along with, then I went to the hospital, which also gets a lot of eyebrows raising, because the moment that you say, you can say right now, I have depression, I have anxiety. And I think societally, we've gotten pretty good. Even I go to therapy. People are like, okay, cool. When I say I went to the psych ward at Columbia, people are like, ooh, okay, what's going on with her? And I think that's what I'd like to help end the stigma of, because let me tell you, when I went to that psych ward, it was the first time I got a proper diagnosis and was introduced to the proper type of therapy that then has allowed me a decade later to be right here speaking to you and in the most peaceful, joyful part of my life yet. And I want people to know that just because they were in those same positions or something close, you don't have to be there. And there is so much light and so much hope.
I love this quote that you say to your son, Adrian, who's now 6, nobody is perfectly perfect and nobody is pure evil. We all live somewhere between. Why do you share that with him?
He is just like I was. All he wants is perfection. And it's wild how we are born into that in some ways, where I'll tell you right now, my almost 4-year-old is not. He's not looking for other people's approval, but some of us come out looking for that approval. And it took me a long time to understand. And I always say, this side's perfect, this side's evil. Honey, we all live in between, and you're going to make choices and slide on that slide. It's better to be on the better half, but you're never going to get there, and you're never going to get there. So, you know, he's a kid, so he says, I'm the worst. And I'm like, well, see, that's what you can't do. And we all do it.
Well, you know, I know you've had such an impact on careers around the country, and you hold such a special place in the heart of other meteorologists, particularly women. I want to show you something real quick. Take a look at the camera.
Hey, Ginger. I just wanted to say thank you so much for always being there for me. You have been a phenomenal mentor to me from day one, whether it was little things like teaching me how to walk in high heels to big things like teaching me how to step into a role as a chief meteorologist. You've also been there for me in some really heartbreaking times, like when I lost my son in a late-term miscarriage. I've always wondered how you knew what to say and how you knew how to help me process. And reading the book now, I can see why. I just think it's incredibly brave and incredibly beautiful that you're sharing those moments with the world.
Wow. You guys got me.
That was, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of your legacy and also a part of your kindness and your compassion and empathy, all that. And that's what Ellen was saying there. As she's now seeing her success come to light.
And her ability, I've watched her grow. I was her professor at Valparaiso University. I've watched her grow from this, 19-year-old who was definitely going to be successful. And I used to always joke with her, now don't take my job. I'm going to teach you everything, almost everything, but don't take my job. And she has successfully taken every job I've had up until this one. So we got to keep her at bay. But the relationship I've been able to develop and the mentoring I've been able to do goes well beyond how you stand in front of a green screen. And I think to hear that coming back from her, especially with her recent loss and the trauma that I can't understand because I haven't had that conversation her and I recently had, in how proud I was of her, of sharing her story in a late term miscarriage and or to have anything of the sort. That is what we need to do.
Listen, this book is beautiful. Congratulations on everything. Give Ben and the babies my best. And you can read more about how Ginger found her way to healing and her path forward in her new memoir. You can tell I love it. I'm still holding on to it. A Little Closer to Home, How I Found Calm After the Storm.